How's it going, guys? Football-ManagerYouthDevelopment.co.uk here. In this episode, I'm going to show you my tips for finding players for lower league teams. Currently, I am managing Bristol Rovers, who are, of course, in League 2. I'm currently in my second season, but what I wanted to just show you guys quickly is how I have found the players for my team that are currently playing pretty well for me. So, my first tip, if you click on any nation, obviously I'm managing in England, so I'm going to click on England. You can find some pretty good players, especially youth players, if you click on transfers. Currently it would be set to all transfers, but if you go to youth departures, obviously if you go back through the months, when you get to the month of June and May, what you can basically do, so you'll see on here that there's loads and loads of youth players that have been released from pretty big clubs. Yeah, I'm not going to say Sunderland are a big club. So yeah, like Tottenham, Stoke, you know, all these youth players that you can scout, basically, that they've been released from their contracts. What I would recommend, you can just literally go through, so you can select all the Arsenal, Villa players, Burnley, you know, any players that you want to select. And obviously what you can do is just get a massive scout report on all these players. It's really, really quick and really good way to find some good youth players for your team. My second tip is to go through and what it's a good idea to do when you are playing lower league football. Obviously, you're only going to be really looking at getting players on a free transfer or on loan. So it's a very, very good idea that to scout the current league that you're playing in. I'm just going to click on the details here, but what you can see, I'm looking for players that have got a good enough current ability for the league that I am currently managing in, and I'm also looking for players that you know, whose contracts is going to be running out at the end of the season. I personally like to have players with good bravery and good work rate. Obviously you can just pick and choose whatever you want, you know, key attributes to find, but what you'll be finding here throughout the whole season, you'll be finding some really, really good players that you can bring into your team. So just as an example, if I stored it by stats, you can see here there's some good players like, say, Keith Keane, for example. He has played 14 times already in League 2 and he's got an average rating of 6.93. Obviously, I do know that his contract's going to be coming to an end at the end of this season. So what you can do, obviously the scouting you know, assignment that I have set up there, you can just keep a real good eye on it and you can get some really, really quality players for your team. Another really good tip, if you click on the scouting tab here and then click on all known players, what you now have the ability to do is under conditions, you can go to club and then either do it based or club, or what I like to do is click on division. So obviously I'm managing in League 2 at the moment. So for now, I'll just show you what I do, just find players that are playing really, really well in League 2. So you can click here, obviously go to stats and then click on overall. You can sort by average rating. So what you're basically looking for here is just any players that have played quite a number of games in the current league that you're managing in who have a really high average rating. So yeah, this guy, for example, here, you can see he's a 20-year-old midfielder currently playing for Barnet. But yeah, in 8 games, he's got an average rating of 7.61. So it's obviously a really, really good idea to look for players whose contracts might be expiring at the end of the year. So obviously I've got my scouts looking for these players, but you can obviously help yourself. So you can, if you set it by expiring in a year, players that are playing in League 2, literally just click the lot, just go down to as many players as you want. Yeah, so you might want to obviously select it with players that are playing pretty well. So you can literally go like that. 127 players have an average rating of over 6.80, whose contracts are expiring at the end of the year and currently playing in League 2. That's a really, really good thing that you can do. Also, what I would also recommend, you can set division is, and you can actually do it by division is at least League 2. So what it will be doing, obviously from League 2 and above, you'll be finding any players you know, that are above that. So what I would probably recommend you do is if you go for division is at least, and then whatever league you're managing in, just select the league above, and then obviously you'll be finding all these really, really good players here who are playing in the league above, but their contracts are expiring. So you can see here, if I go down to 9.8 like I did in the last example that I gave, We have again 179 players that we can just get a real quick scouting report on. Just so that you're very, very familiar all the time with the players whose contracts are going to be expiring at the end of the season. So I obviously mentioned earlier that when you are managing a lower league team that you're going to be looking for players on free transfers, and of course players who are, who you might be able to get in on loan. So really, really good tip. Again, you can go for division is at least, and what you can do, say if you were looking for Premier League players that you could get on loan, just click here, realistic regular loans, and of course you can just click through here. I do tend to sort by value when I'm looking for players to get in on loan. But yeah, you can just basically flick through and just try and find some pretty decent players. Like this guy, for example, this kid in League One would absolutely smash it. Obviously, when it does come to the January transfer window, this is certainly a kid that I'm going to be keeping an eye on. This is the first time I've actually seen this guy, but looking at his attributes, they look pretty damn good for a winger who would be in League 2. But yeah, that's a really, really good way of trying to find some decent players to get in on loan. Obviously, you don't have to sort it by Premier League. You can go down to like Championship, League 1. What I do tend to find, obviously, if you don't have this set, then you can sometimes just get a load of players who are available on loan potentially in like leagues that are lower than yours. Obviously that's not going to be particularly ideal because you're going to be looking for some pretty quality players. So yeah, maybe set it to like Championship or something like that, and yeah, hopefully that will help you find some pretty decent players to bring in on loan. My last tip, and for finding some pretty decent players to get in on loan, so what you can do, I tend to just stick to the Premier League or the Championship, but if you click on any club, just for example Chelsea, because they're top of the league, you can go to team reports, get team reports. I'll just go Chelsea and then Patrick Anderson, and what this will basically do, it will get him to compile a report on all the Chelsea players, like their first team squad, and then it says here, additionally Anderson may also compile a report on the available players for loan from the club. So I'm just going to press yes, and I'll just be back in a few moments. So obviously we're not in the January transfer window at the moment, but what you can see here, that my scout Patrick Anderson has compiled a report on Chelsea, and also part of his report, what he's done here is given me a list of Chelsea players who might be available for loan. The beautiful thing about this is it shows you all the current ability of the players, potential ability, etc, etc. Obviously, if you are in the January transfer window, there's going to be a hell of a lot more players, but the great thing about this, it just shows you all the players you might be able to get on loan from Chelsea quite clearly. Some of these players don't actually show up in the player search screen when you're actually having a look, but you do have a very, very good opportunity of getting these players on loan. So yeah, what I tend to do, so I just literally click Chelsea, go Man City, get team report, and then just keep going through every team in the Premier League, especially when the transfer windows are open, and just getting a report basically on any players that might be available to come to me on loan. So I did that during this season. I just wanted to show you some of the players that I have brought into my club using this method. So on loan, I managed to get Ross Turnbull on loan from I can't remember what team I've got him on loan from. He's currently on loan from Leeds, but if I take a look at his contract, so for Leeds, they're currently paying him $5,000 a week. I managed to get Ross Turnbull. I'm not paying him any wages at all, but just using my method of clicking on Leeds, going to their team report, I managed to get Ross Turnbull, which I think is a pretty good coup for a League 2 club, especially in the position that I'm in of managing Bristol Rovers. They're not exactly a kind of big club, but I think that was a pretty decent player to bring into the club. So what I'm also going to do, I'm going to sort by average rating. And so just to show you some of the players that I have managed to get in using the methods that I've shown you. This guy, Piero Mingola. So I was obviously scouting League 2 last season, and what my scouts showed me, that he played over 40 games for Accrington Stanley last season in League 2 with an average rating of 6.73. Although that's not a particularly high average rating, he obviously did play a lot of games, but he's come into my club now, and in 14 games he scored 5 goals, 5 assists, 7.39 average rating, so he's obviously absolutely smashing it for me at the moment. Stephen Hewitt, for example, managed to get this guy, and he's only 22, but he's bloody good for League 2 basically. So yeah, this guy was on loan last season at Oxford, who were obviously playing in League 2, and yeah, he had an average rating of 6.87, so obviously I really did want to get this guy into my club because he was playing really well. Who else we got? So this guy here, I found him using my method where I look for players that have been released from their youth contracts. This guy was released from his Arsenal youth contract. I have got better left backs at the club, but obviously this is a guy that I can try and develop as much as possible. If I have a look at the coach reports, you can see here that he's got really good potential, and his current ability at the moment is 2 stars, which makes him a useful, a decent player for the senior team. But yeah, you can find some really good players with really high potential using that method. Yeah, what other players? So yeah, Terry Gonnell, for example. Last season in League 2, he scored 14 goals in 38 games, again for Accrington Stanley. This season, because I saw that he managed to get quite a lot of goals, I've brought him in, and in 7 starts, he's got me 5 goals. So you can see the type of return that if you're looking for these players that you can actually get. So yeah, really good method. Obviously, I'm not doing particularly too well at the moment. Obviously, I'm kind of hovering around, I'm currently trying to push for the top positions. But yeah, managing a club like Bristol Rovers is pretty tough. But you can see the players that I am bringing into the club and managing to get into the club are making a massive difference to the way that I'm actually playing at the moment. Yeah, and they're doing really well for me. So I'm going to call this the end of the episode, guys. I hope this has helped you with trying to find some really good players for your lower league team on Football Manager 2016.